Alrighty, welcome to the Get Well podcast. I'm your host, Brennan Wiersma. Today I have the honor of sitting down with stand-up comedian Nimesh Patel. He was the first Indian-American writer for Saturday Night Live. He's written for the Oscars, and you may have seen him on the Joe Rogan Experience. How's it going today, man?
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I guess I want to start off by saying I'm a huge fan. I actually saw you first on the Joe Rogan Experience, and that was one of the episodes. I mean, I've seen quite a bit. That one stuck out to me. I don't know why I watched it over, and after I started the podcast, I kind of got the idea to reach out to you to see if you'd be able to do this, which
Yeah, of course.
Means a lot. So
Joe put me on to a lot of people. I'm glad. My fan base expanded with his.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a lot of what he tries to do with his platform is help other people, which is pretty cool. So I guess starting from the beginning, you're a stand-up comedian, but I know that you also had to have a degree in finance, which I kind of like to talk about that sort of thing. But how did your journey to becoming a stand-up comedian happen? Like, did you always want to do that, or how did that start?
It was something, I graduated with a degree in finance in '08 from NYU's undergrad finance program. And I wasn't the best student. I interviewed at a bunch of banks and investment banks, and two of them, I thought one of them I would land because I got pretty far in the interview process, and then neither one of those ended up panning out. And it was like April or May of 2008. And I was like, fuck, I don't have a job. And then, for about a year or so, I bounced around shitty jobs, temp jobs. In '09 summer, like I took a writing class while I was doing a temp job at Bloomberg, and that writing class ended up being like really sappy and corny. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And then that summer, I've been laid off from that temp job, and I was like, what do I like doing? I like writing. What I like making people laugh. Stand up seems like a natural mix of those two things. And I got on stage in August of 2009 at Stress Factory in New Brunswick at their open mic, which is like a bringer. We had to bring people to get stage time. And I brought like 15, 20 of my cousins because we're all from Jersey. And I thought I had 5 minutes. I probably did 3.5, but it went well enough such that I wasn't like, this isn't for me. I was like, I got to do this all the time. And that was really it. And then from that point on, it was like, okay, what do I have to do to make sure that I can pay rent and do stand up? And so for the next year and change after 2009, I was like living at home, looking for a job that would allow me to have like work-life balance, but also pay enough that I could, live in a living room in New York or something. And that's basically what happened. So for I had an internship with a friend who really saved my ass and, gave me the foundation to like go out and interview at places. And really what I was struggling with was, a NYU kid with a decent resume, a decent GPA, interviewing to be like an executive assistant wasn't really meshing well at investment banks, because it was like, you look like the kind of guy that is just saying you want to be an assistant, but will be mad when you don't get more responsibility. And I was like, I can't tell you why I don't want to do that. But one place took a shot at me as a hedge fund. But I made the mistake of not telling them that I was doing comedy as well. And so, for 8 months, I was like an assistant, basically printing reports, filling out conference call information, finding information for the analysts and stuff. And then the portfolio manager, the head guy, realized that, it's a small shop. The head PM, the founder of the firm, realized I had some excess capacity, put me on building models for hotel companies. And I did okay, but I wasn't like really into it. I would leave at like 6 o'clock. I was like, I gotta go open,
Yeah.
And so that job ended like 8 or 9 months in. And then the next job I had was at an investment bank being an assistant. But I told them going in, I was like, look, the only reason I want to be an assistant is because I want to do stand-up comedy. Like, just give me enough money and I will crush the job in terms of, making decks and printing shit and setting rooms up and making sure the analysts are traveling all right and all that kind of crap. But I don't want to be working here till midnight, 2 a.m. and coming in at 8 a.m. I'll come in at 8 and leave at 6 so that I can go do stand-up comedy. And that was really the beginning of the journey. It seems like very quick, but it felt very long.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you have at least an interest in, I mean, you went to school for it, but while you were doing the job, was it something you were enjoying, or was it really just a placeholder for the next thing?
Well, I always kind of had my toe in the finance waters. I always thought like, the job of hedge fund analyst or investment banker, yes, it requires like a lot of dedication and time. And it was interesting. The hedge fund stuff was interesting. Banking is cool, but it wasn't as appealing. But, as I got older and as I progressed in nailing the responsibilities required of an assistant, I started to, branch out and to be like, let me take on a little more responsibility. And then, that would ultimately hit like, my friend who initially hired me at the internship was like, this job, working at a hedge fund or working in finance is not if you want to make the big bucks, it's not a, half in, half out kind of situation.
Yeah.
At least at the beginning, you have to be like fully committed. The way you are committed to comedy, you have to be committed to this job. Mm-hmm. And, that was always in the back of my mind. And so that kind of kept me grounded in terms of what I was looking to do and interview. And so once I after that investment banking job ended because they downsized, I ended up at a family office. Like there was this company that was founded to help invest 2 billionaires' money in sub-Saharan Africa. And it's like a 5-person shop. So there I joined as an executive assistant to the CEO, and they knew I was doing stand-up. But as it became more apparent that I could handle the work-life balance, I got to take on more responsibility. And that was, a function of the fact that I was very visible to the CEO. I was her right hand. And so I was like, let me do this. I will be able to manage both. And, we were looking at opportunities in Africa. So we could plan out like, okay, I'll be gone for like 3 weeks. If I'm going to be traveling here, that's perfectly fine. I have visibility on that kind of stuff. And I was at a point in my comedy career that I could do less open mics and still feel good about what I was doing. And so that last job that I had was probably the one I got furthest in from a career perspective, in that I was like looking at investment opportunities, I was building models, I was meeting like, principals and, founders of companies that were looking for investment. And that was like, and then that job ended in summer of 2015. Like we were told we were going to all be let go in 6 months in the summer of 2015 because the CEO resigned from the family office. And so we were like, oh fuck, what are we all going to do? There's like 5 or 6 of us like scrambling for work. And I was at a point where I was making on paper money that an assistant wouldn't make. But at an associate, it wasn't an associate like level of income, but it was more than an assistant would make. And I was doing associate level responsibilities. And so if I were going to try to find a job, it would have almost been very difficult to find that exact level of work-life balance and the exact level of money that let me do both of those things. Like, be interested in finance and maintain my investment appetite while also doing stand-up. And, once that job ended, coincidentally and by stars aligning, I got a writing job with the Oscars with Chirs Rock. And so it was like that job ended January 2016, and then I was in LA February 2016. And so that was just kind of like, okay, it was like, that's it for the finance stuff, I think, because I imagine after the Oscars, I'm going to be turning down writing jobs. But that was not the case. It wasn't like fame and all that shit came calling like immediately afterwards. It was like, all right, once the Oscars were done, I was like, okay, now what? And then I was dabbling back in copywriting to see if I could, leverage the fact that I just written jokes for the most, the largest award ceremony on the planet, you know?
Yeah.
That, you know, and for the biggest comic on the planet at the time, like I should be able to get a job writing advertising. And that didn't happen because the advertising industry is incestuous and stupid. And you know, and also because, you know, I don't have the resume to, you know, go from working in finance, building models, to writing pithy copy for, you know, Nike or whoever. There's people that have done that for trillions of years.
Yeah.
And so that was it, really. I mean, that's a long journey, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Did you feel that on the way to the end of that story there, did people take the stand-up comedy part of it serious, or was it a struggle trying to get, you know, explain to people why you're doing stand-up comedy when you have opportunities in finance? When did that
No, I
change?
think, you know, luckily for me, everyone was pretty understanding. Everyone that knew was pretty understanding. And I think like my first firm that everyone knew, like everyone was on board to the point where the founder of the firm, that investment bank, brought me into his office and was like, I was like, oh shit, he found out I do stand up now. Now's the time to be let go or some shit. But it was more like, he was like, do you know this comedian? And he just pointed me to another comic named Maz Jobrani. The boss was Lebanese. And so Maz is this huge comedian, but he has like a huge fan base in the Middle East. And my boss was Lebanese. Like, do you know this guy? I was like, yes. He's like, well, you do stand up, right? I was like, yes. He's like, well, do you know this guy? I was like, yeah, I know who he is. And then it ended up like him, you know, the founder of the firm, like I brought him to a show and he was like super supportive. And then I did the company's holiday party. And then the next job I had, like all the other people of like my peer group would come to shows and stuff. Like there was like 4 of us there who were analysts and associate level. And like the 4 of us would like hang out and they would go to shows and stuff. So everyone was always super supportive once I told them. And they also kind of like, like people would be aware, you know, I got named comics to watch or something else happened. Like people were always like, hey, good job. And this and that, you know?
Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like for me, if I were to just tell the people that I know that I'm going to pursue, I mean, I could never pursue stand-up comedy. I'm not funny enough, but if I were, they'd be like, what are you doing? This doesn't make sense. It seems like the craziest job in the world. You just get to go on stage and make people laugh. I don't know. It's
a very entrepreneurial endeavor, which is what, you know, it seems very obvious, but you don't think that when you get into it, because you're your own marketing agent, you're your own salesperson, you're your own CEO, you're in charge of everything. You're product development, you know. So
I never thought about it that way.
It's certainly a job but it's probably it's like any other entrepreneurial endeavor, you will get out of it what you put into it, and it requires a shit ton of work and discipline, and you know, that's come in, it's ebbed and flowed for me in terms of the amount of work I put in, and every time I put in more work, I get more results. And so now I'm on the sort of Mamba mentality of just work, you know.
I love it. That's what I'm all about. So when did the Saturday Night Live come into the picture, and what is that like? What did you wrote the jokes for the show?
So I started at SNL in September of 2017, and I ended in May of 2018. I got the job after Che recommended me for it. And I was writing on the Weekend Update segment of the show. So Weekend Update's like, you know, if you don't watch SNL, Weekend Update's the 15-minute, 20-minute anchor segment of the show where Che and Jost are, you know, delivering jokes about the news. And so we were writing news jokes basically constantly. And then, you know, from an update writer will also like help punch up a bunch of sketches. They'll be at the writers' tables for, you know, when sketches need to be punched up. If they have the capacity to do so. And that was really it. And so I did that until May 2018. And then for about a year or so, I was just like doing stand-up. And I did stand-up and solely stand-up from May of 2018 through May of 2019. And then June of 2019, I became a field producer at Full Frontalism at the Bee. Did that until February of 2020. And then lockdown basically, and then I was doing stand up again, and lockdown happened, and nothing was going on. I put my hour out on YouTube. And and now here we are 8 months later.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's from the outside looking, it seems like you've gotten to the point where, I mean, that's your career. You've made it, and especially.
I mean, now I write for Lily Singh, A Little Late with Lily Singh, which is on the second season. I wasn't on the first season, but made it is a very a nebulous and fleeting term.
Yeah.
I made it until I haven't, and then it's back to trying to make it again. It's like just a constant entrepreneurial thing where you're just like, all right, I have to keep at it and keep doing this. And I know your podcast is about getting wealth and like diversifying your income streams, and really like lucky for me this year, I've been able to diversify my income stream. It's still comedy based, but it's like now I have the YouTube, and it's not like crazy or anything like that, but it's enough to be like, okay, this is something that will a good amount of passive income in terms of I got to put stuff out, and it requires investment in the sense I got to pay my editors, and it requires a time investment in terms of putting stuff up, and then it drains a lot because I will still like track like, oh, what are my analytics doing, like all that kind of stuff. But it is like a new source of income that I didn't have before. And I think what the goal is to kind of have like a Leno style of income where I like in terms of all his money from stand up, he's like saved, or all of his money from his show, he just saved. And all the money from stand up is what he lives on, which either way, it's bananas. But like, the idea for me, at least in the long term, is to have enough money from comedy that I could pursue my other interests and still be that thing of you can't be in both half-heartedly. Like you can't be in one field and other field it's not necessarily true if you have enough money to do whatever the fuck you want to be doing, and that's really just a goal, So
in your mind, is that what making it looks like, or do you think that you're ever going to be in a spot where you're like, okay, I can rest now?
I don't ever want to rest. Making it is the ability to me to do whatever I want all the time. I want to, this is just a hypothetical, but like, imagine, I could do 6 months of stand up and 6 months of comedy stuff. And then the other 6 months I'm out looking at investment opportunities in sub-Saharan Africa again. You know what I mean? Like that is my idea of like ultimate freedom, where I can like really dive into stuff that really piques my interest whenever the fuck I feel like doing it, and then commit wholeheartedly to that one thing until that thing is complete, and then move on to the next thing. I have friends who have remained in the world of finance and are like, very successful millionaires, if money is a measure of success, that, have their day jobs like investment. One's an investment professional, for example, at a giant mutual fund, a long only hedge fund, sorry. But on the side, he'll like invest in restaurants, he'll invest in startups, but still using that skill set of investing. That's kind of what I want to do. I don't have the strongest investment pedigree, but I definitely want to build on that skill set, and whatever opportunities comedy affords me, I will definitely do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. From my understanding, from the little I've been able to learn to this point, with something like finance, the base level for most people is not as much as you would expect, which is kind of the reason I'm doing this. Is I've been more interested in it recently, and I want to talk to people who have some sort of experience, or at least in entrepreneurship, or are successful, whatever it is, so I can learn.
You mean from like a financial literacy perspective?
Yeah.
I mean, the country in general is Americans are very, I don't want to say dumb. Ignorance, not necessarily the right word either. Just like not informed at all about what goes into even the most basic of even the most basic financial literacy. It's like we hear about people bemoaning socialism while collecting an unemployment check. It's like that's what it is, and it's like the greatest thing in the world. There should definitely be a floor on how much money you can have. Like, or people should not be poor in a country where there's literally almost trillionaires. So that's like the very basis of financial literacy, of like, if some people have and other people don't, shouldn't the people that have like at least somehow take care of the people that don't? Otherwise, it kind of just, the definition of society is people taking care of other people. Like, or do we live in a society, or do you want it to be a free for all? In which case, like, most people will lose, especially the people that think socialism is bad will definitely lose, it seems like, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, all the economics of running an entire country, I can't even pretend to understand the start of it. In other countries that are socialist, they still have poor people, and balancing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, poverty is. Yeah. I mean, we can have that conversation. I'm not sure if that's one you wanted to have, but and I'm also not as fully informed as economists and what have you. I just know that the system that we have now, the system of oligarchy and capitalism, has failed America. And the only people who say it's winning are people who are convinced that they're gonna someday get rich, or people who are already rich and are trying to maintain their wealth. Either way, like, it's not, if people actually applied real thought to any of it, they would find that capitalism has mostly failed most Americans. At least, like, if you're looking at people who are struggling in the middle class, people who are impoverished, like, any country that claims that they're the best in the world and has people who, the most concentration of billionaires, should not have people who are dying of hunger. Like, that is like by and far a huge fundamental statement against America's capitalist system. And I'm a capitalist. Don't get me wrong. I think, you should be able to work hard and reap the benefits of your hard work. No one's saying you shouldn't, but I do think that at some point there should be a ceiling on, if you live in a place where you have literally all the money on the planet, there are people dying outside of your home. I don't know how we say that the person who's a billionaire and sees people who are dying outside of his home is a good person. Like, that's not something to aspire to, I don't think.
Yeah. Do you think, as far as the like limiting the people of how much they can make, that kind of puts a cap on the amount of people that are going to be willing to, like, it, as far as the capitalist and society having more opportunity? It's
a weird moral hazard you're placing upon, or a weird moral litmus test you're placing upon people who want to achieve something. It's like, okay, if you say I can't make $1 billion, then why would I do? If I can't make more than $1 billion, then why would I do anything? That's like, what person is not motivated to make $1 billion, who then is like, oh, okay, if I'm not making $2 billion, I'm not going to do anything. Like, that is a preposterous kind of positioning for achievement. It's like, okay, if you're not going to be worth $100 billion, then it's not worth pursuing. Like, what kind of attitude is that? I don't think putting a cap on anything is necessarily the right way. I just think the floor should be a lot higher for people who are struggling. Welfare queen and welfare king, all this, like, these terms are outdated and were designed to be pejorative towards communities that were necessarily oppressed in the first place. But if you create a world where there's a floor, studies have shown that people will go above that floor because they know that there's at least some kind of backstop. I think if coming from a stand-up perspective, coming from a perspective of an entrepreneur, I think if you know that there's going to be someone there to catch you, you will likely take a lot more risk. And that to me sounds like spurring innovation, spurring people to do things that they wouldn't normally do, and taking the risks because they know, you know what, my food's going to be paid for. My kids are going to, if they get sick, they'll be taken care of. My roads will be handled in that, you know, my taxes will go to things that like keep society in general running at, you know, a good beat, you know, strong roads, solid police work, solid firefighters, solid like healthcare, solid education. If those floors exist, then the sky is the limit. But those floors don't exist in America, and people just fall through. And then the people who have fallen through the cracks are taught to blame other people who have fallen through the cracks, as opposed to blaming the capitalists and oligarchs that have created those cracks in the first place.
I see what you're saying. Just to play devil's advocate to that, though, don't you think if
Please.
you have that floor, they're just lazy people that want to just sit on the floor?
Sure. Laziness exists everywhere. Laziness happens. I'm lazy all the time, but that is more reading of your interpretation of what people will do, as opposed to that's a negative reading of people's motivations in general. Yeah, if everyone will, you know what I mean? Like that is you, not you necessarily, but people who say, oh, people will just be lazy. Then if you give them a floor, then people will just want to chill on the floor. It's like that's what you think people want to be doing. Sure. There will definitely be people who take full advantage of the system, and definitely people who only, you know, contribute, you know, nothing to society, so to speak. But the society has to build for that. There's a lot more people who are, if given the right floor and given the right ample opportunity, will take it to the next level and be like, you know what, this floor is great, but I don't want the floor. I see this person who's done so much with the same floor that I've been given. I want to aspire to that. I think if you shift your perspective of how you view people on the floor, so to speak, that makes it so much more obvious that a floor is necessary, that a floor is what's been lacking in America. Like, there's no reason, absolutely no reason, people should be starving and have to choose between sending their kids to school and going to work and eating. Like, those are decisions that happen every day, but that should not happen in the best country in the world. Everyone should be taken care of to a certain extent. And you have to build in for people who will take advantage of the system. But what do you think of your fellow Americans if you think they're given a floor that they're just going to lay on the floor? Like, what is you're a congressperson or you're a president, and you think that people are given a floor, they're just going to lay there? That's what you think Americans are about? I mean, how fucked up is that?
I mean, are there some examples of that though, with like welfare and that,
sure,
you know, having a negative impact?
I'm sure there's research that proves whatever you want to prove.
Yeah. I think I really appreciate your positive outlook and empathy.
I'm just saying, like, you know, I don't know anyone personally or from even anecdotal experience that if told, hey, look, you could either lay on this, you know, dirty floor that, you know, does a good job and learn all you want to a certain extent, or you can achieve all this if you just really put your mind to it. 9 times out of 10, people are gonna be like, I want to do more. Mm-hmm. And then they keep trying, and they fail and go back to the floor and get back up and try again. But like, you can't bracket society as a group of people who are just going to be lazy. Mm-hmm. and fucking indolent, and therefore just let them all collapse, and, you know, whatever happens, and only the people who are really about it will survive. No, because that takes away from the fact that people may not necessarily be lazy. They just may have a lot of circumstances that they can't account for that have put them in a place where they don't have anything and they can't come out of their poverty trap, or they can't come out of the circumstances without additional help. And that floor is that help.
Yeah.
No, so that's just how I view it. I mean,
100% what you're saying.
You know,
my hope is as we progress forward into, 2030 or whatever, and society continues to advance, there'll be more resources and technology advancements that just kind of help that base level get propped up in whatever way that is. I think as a country and as a world, the trajectory has been upward. So I think if that continues, ultimately becomes a better world for everyone. Or, the world ends after 2020. Who knows?
I mean, the trajectory on an absolute basis has been positive. If you listen to Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and, all the brightest minds, so to speak, they all say, and they're all correct, in that life has never been better for everyone at large in terms of life expectancy, in terms of the advancements of productivity and technology. Sure. But you go talk to people in middle-class Arizona and ask them if their lives are the best they've ever been. Go talk to the people down the street from me in Brooklyn and ask them if their lives are the best they've ever been. And the answer will be no, because the same problems that existed in society 50 years ago exist now, where it's like we don't have the best education systems, which we should. We don't have the best healthcare, which we should. And those two things are what overwhelmingly contribute to a strong and functioning society. We're not going to have technological innovation if we're not investing in technology, because we only think people who want to aspire to those jobs will go out and get those jobs. It's like, well, people in rural Arizona may want to pursue computer engineering, but their high school or college or whatever, elementary school, middle school, they don't even mention that in their curriculum. Therefore, how are they ever going to aspire to that? So I'm getting away from the point. The point is like, yes, society's trending as a world upward, but there's so many people who have been left behind by no fault of their own, both Black and white and Indian and Chinese and every other color under the sun, who have been failed by a country that is allegedly the best, where the pursuit of wealth has kind of blinded people to what wealth is. And that, that question you asked in the questionnaire you sent me is like, what is your definition of wealth? It's like, I mean, money is one of the key components of wealth, obviously, right? Like I definitely want to have a lot of money, but it's only so that I can do what I want. And part of what I want to do is take care of the people that society calls lazy and doesn't give opportunities to, because they think, if they wanted those opportunities, they would pursue them. It's like their fault that they're not achieving the way they should be. And it's like, that's not necessarily true. And that's an old Indian mentality too. People from India will look down upon other minorities because they think minorities are lazy and don't, achieve stuff, because the Indian themselves have achieved a lot. But those Indian people, and I'm only speaking from personal experience, very, very conveniently forget the fact that the people that are struggling here, have suffered here for so long, are victims of circumstance well beyond their control.
Yeah.
And so that is like, that's all going on in my brain in terms of wealth. For me, wealth is being able to help those people after obviously achieving what I want to achieve in terms of my freedom. To me, wealth is just freedom to do whatever the fuck I want to do. Right now, I can't do everything that I want to do. I can do some of the things, so I'm like wealthy in that sense. But once I get to a point where I can do everything I want, I will say, okay, that's enough. Wealth is knowing when you have enough. to me.
Yeah, that's one of the aspects that I think is a good way to do things, is having people like you that are ambitious and have that, hustler mentality, Mamba mentality, and are trying to achieve some sort of monetary wealth, but also having this kind of consciousness of, giving back and being able to share and make things better for other people. Ultimately, that's the best kind of capitalism or entrepreneur, or whatever you want to say, is when you can, make other people, bring other people up in the process, which is, props to you for that.
Thank you, man. I mean, if we lived in a place where there were a very high floor, then I would say wealth is all about getting money. You know what I mean? Like, if everyone in the country was making, $100,000 a year, and everyone was like getting a proper education and getting all the access to all the opportunities, then to me, wealth would be about, all right, there's no one to take care of. There's no one who's fallen through the cracks. I'm going to try to make as much bank as possible. And so that I could, buy the things that I think are cool and have all the experiences that I want to have. But until that's the case, it's like, why would I pursue stuff that I know doesn't really make a positive impact on society?
Yeah. We got our work cut out for us if we're fixing that problem, just me and you. Yeah. But as far as if you are on that, that bottom level, or you're kind of, even where I'm at, I don't have much. As far as a human characteristic that you could point out and say, this is what it is going to help you become successful or get where you want to get to, what's that characteristic?
That's a good question. I one characteristic is kind of hard to define, but if I were to, answer your question with a not one word answer, it would be like resilience and thoughtfulness. Resilience in your ability to get beat up and plow through it with the notion that you have to achieve what you set out to achieve, and thoughtfulness in that you should think things through and really analyze everything that you're doing from a how to make it better perspective. And that is, that's the Mamba mentality in part, just like get better all the time and always work to get better. Every facet of everything you're doing, you can get better at. So get better at that. And so, that's like, so yeah, the answer is like thoughtfulness and resilience. Like those two things, I think, coupled with a bunch of other shit, will definitely help you get out from whatever it is you're doing. And, don't discount luck. Yeah. Luck is a huge part of everyone's success.
For sure. In the little time we have left here, I wanted to ask you about the Joe Rogan experience and a little bit what that was. And then I also have some questions from people that follow the podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
So as far as like the Joe Rogan experience, how did that happen? What was it like? Like, I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan. So as far as just like going there and, the building, like what was that all about?
I could tell you're a fan by the flag hanging on the back.
Yeah, Joe, that's kind of inspiration there.
Joe was great. A friend of mine after Columbia happened, hit me up and was like, yo, you should talk to Joe. And then he linked us. And Joe was like, hey, man, brother, we got to talk. I was like, all right, cool. I'd love to come on. And I had decided when the Columbia incident happened that, when I got kicked off stage there, that and that once it became like a national story, so to speak, that I probably would limit my conversation to, the Times and one other outlet. And Joe just happened to be the biggest outlet at the time. It still is probably one of the largest outlets, but it was also like one that hit me up. Tucker Carlson did email me to come talk on the show like twice. I was like, I'm not coming on your fucking show, Tuck. But when Joe hit me up, I was like, all right, yeah. And then, I had planned an LA trip anyway. And so I was like, I'm going to be out in LA at this point, like, and I just changed my date so that I could make it work with him. And I went out there, took an Uber to this giant warehouse, and it was just his warehouse. It was this warehouse, and it was like a giant parking lot, no cars except one. I think it was Jamie's. Went in, and it was like walking into a part Planet Fitness, like it's just gym and shit. It was nuts, and it's like big ass. I'm sure you've seen it on his. I don't know what that animal is that he's got. That he's always posing with, the big like red.
That werewolf thing.
Yeah, that thing, and a bunch of other like just cool shit. Went into his green room, talked to Jamie for a second. Joe showed up, said what up, talked my shit. I think it was really quick because I think he does like 2 or 3 in a day, and so talked. Gave him a little gift as a thank you that my friend sent over. I'm not sure if you've seen it, at least in this LA episodes, there was like a floating light bulb. My friend worked for a company, and I was like, yo, I want to give him one of those. Those shits is dope. And so got one of those. And I did not smoke with him, which I was a conscious decision to not smoke because I figured he's got like the craziest weed in the world.
Oh,
and I was like, I can't. Yeah, he didn't smoke with me. And I think Jamie may have offered, but I don't remember. But I had made it a point in my head. It's like, if I get offered weed, I'm not going to take any, just because I want to be a little clear-headed. And I know the weed is fucking likely bananas, because I'd had LA weed before, and I was like, I've been fucked up on it. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to smoke Joe Rogan's LA weed. And so that was fun. I mean, Joe was like super nice. And we ended up talking about beyond Columbia. You know, we talked about process and the comedy process and stuff, his process. He told me about Carlin's and how he operates. We did some new shit, and that was it, you know, like, and that was, you know, the conversation we had was one I had played in my head like a billion times. You know what I mean? Like, I've been thinking about the Columbia incident for, I think 2 weeks at that point, like every day. I was like, what the fuck? How the fuck? What happened? and so talking with Joe helped me really clear the air with all of it. And that was like a conscious decision to be like, once that's done, I can talk about it, but I won't say anything new beyond that, because I may, and I have, but that conversation was kind of like the majority of everything I had thought at that point.
That's what you're putting out, and that's what you've said what you need to do, and you articulate it really well. It was fun to listen to. Thank
you, man. Yeah, I mean, you know, it was like, my only regret with that podcast is I think people only know me as that comic, as a kid that got kicked off Columbia. Whereas like at that point, I was 9 years into comedy. I had written for the Oscars, SNL, Chirs Rock. Like, I'd done all this shit. And I know Joe knows me as a comic, but, you know, I wasn't brought on there as a comic. I was brought on there as a Columbia kid. And so like, I can't wait to go back and just talk shit from a comics perspective, as opposed to, because that was the most fun for me. Once the work of talking about Columbia was done, it was like, let's talk comedy process and fucking trade green room stories. And granted, you know, he's been doing comedy for like 30 years and I've been doing it for 9 at that point, but like, you still have some kind of kinship in that sense, you know? So
yeah,
hopefully next time.
Yeah. For me, after I watched it, I went and looked and watched all your stuff on YouTube and became a fan of you as a comedian.
Oh, thank you.
I think it did help a lot of people in that sense. I know we're running out of time here. Oh, and then also anybody watching, I encourage you to go watch on YouTube. I'll probably link it in the description, the video of the Columbia, just in case people have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so some people had some questions for you here.
Here we go. Yeah.
Grant Hellerud says, did you have a fear of public speaking? And if so, how did you overcome
it? Grant, it sounds like someone who may have a fear of public speaking. And I hate to inform you that I never had a fear of public speaking. But what I can say for someone who may have a fear of public speaking is go up in your underwear. And no, I was just, you know, like, I've bombed majority of the times I've been on stage. I've just been on stage so many times that the non-bombs have lifted me to where I am at. But nothing happens. You know what I mean? Like nothing happens if you're afraid or if, it doesn't go well, like nothing happens to you. You know what I mean? Like embarrassment is like very short-lived unless you fucking absolutely, literally shit on stage. Like no one's going to remember anything. No one cares. Everyone is just as afraid, if not admiring your ability to do whatever it is you're doing. And I know it's very easy to say that nothing happens and the different thing to feel it, but I can assure you that nothing happens to you. Like there's very little actual consequence to what you're doing. And that fear is the worst kind of fear because it's based on no consequence. Like a fear of falling is real because you will die, but like a fear of public speaking, there's zero consequence unless you're, fucking presenting for like 1 billion people and it's like your job on the line. But from a stand-up perspective or from a emceeing a wedding perspective, there's very little consequence to what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. It's probably easier said than done. I mean, it's for sure convincing yourself, but that's awesome. Alessandro says, what was your first ever comedy performance and what was it like?
First ever comedy performance was, I was 5 years old and my grandpa was about to smack me and he said some Gujarati phrase which translates to, I'm gonna put your head between your ears. And I said, it's already there. And he laughed and luckily I got out of there.
It's a good joke.
It's a true story. That's the first time I remember making someone laugh and getting out of trouble from it. Awesome. But the first actual stand-up time was August 19th, 2009. I went to Stress Factory, New Brunswick, New Jersey. Their bringer open mic, brought like 15 of my cousins. Yeah. Obviously all Indian people. Went up to 3.5 minutes about Hillary Clinton and how she would have won the election, and then how she should have won the election. And then Rich Voss and Vinny Brand went up either before me or after me and proceeded to just shit on my cousins. It was great.
Funny. All right. And then last question from Cole Grindy. He says, do you think comedians are usually sick in the head as expressed by Joe Rogan?
I definitely think we are a different breed of people than the average. And I'm not sure in what context or how Joe said it, but I could take it to mean like sick in the head, meaning like we will look at something that everyone else is looking at as like a tremendous tragedy or something and just be like, all right, like what's funny about it? Because that's how kind of, and it's not from like a callous point of view. It's just how over the years, our brains and our hearts have been wired to process things, right? It's like, I know when someone dies and something tragic happens, that it is tragic and that I feel the sympathy and or empathy for someone going through a situation. But my brain, from an emotional perspective, has already kind of leapfrogged to that. Like I immediately feel that so quickly, that sympathy and empathy, that it's like, all right, how do I deal with it what's the joke, man? Like, how do I laugh at this? And, and I remember feeling the most like a comedian when Kobe died early this year. And, I'm a huge Kobe fan. I fucking love the guy. And when he died, literally from a helicopter crash, literally, I swear my first thought was like, damn, this motherfucker tried to race traffic, like he was so competitive. He tried to beat traffic. And that even when I thought, I was like, damn, that's fucked up. But like that's how I processed it. So my first thought was like, I was so sad, but immediately I was like, all right, what's going to make this funny? And that wasn't a conscious decision, like what's going to make this funny. It was just like, that's where my brain went because I already sort of absorbed the pain so quickly. Mm-hmm. And that was really it, so yes, short answer, Joe's right. We are sick in the head and that we perceive things a bit differently and we apply them differently. And, there's definitely obviously different ranges of sick in the head. There's me and then there's Cosby. So like there's very different ranges of sick in the head, but For the most part, yeah. I mean, I think if his definition of just like how we process things, then yeah. And I think the world would be a much better place if people were all comedians, like at least from understanding point of view. If we were looking at things like from a funny perspective, you know, as opposed to like an angry perspective, like things would be a lot better. But
yeah,
that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate your perspectives on things. I think there's a lot people can learn from you. And I also appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on my small little YouTube channel podcast. That means a lot to me.
Hey, man, I'm a man of the people. I'm just trying to, this is like, when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's like, you got to make sure you're addressing all the markets you can address and reaching out to all the places where talk to people who are like-minded, and that's really it. One thing I wanted to talk about before I get out of here was this entrepreneurial endeavor that my friend and I, Mookie, went on this year called zooidiots.com.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We were approached by 4 very successful capitalists in April. In April of 2018, I went on a trip that I met a friend named Jeremy. He's an engineer. Fast forward April 2020, he emails me saying, hey, a bunch of my friends and I have formed this learning group, and we want to create a Twitter campaign for featuring animals that are talking to each other, given how animals have been impacted by climate change. And we want it to be funny and, insightful, et cetera. And do you know any comedians that would be interested in doing that? And I said, no, no, point blank. Like that sounds like a lot of work for very little return. But my friend Mookie and I would love to create an animated series for you that incorporates your themes, but will also be driven by jokes. And, my favorite cartoon is The Simpsons. I love Rick and Morty. Mookie is a huge fan of Rick and Morty and King of the Hill and South Park. And so we proposed to these guys, one Jeremy, an engineer, another guy named Andy, who's a successful venture capitalist and sits on the board of a bunch of startups, one guy named Jeff, who was a CEO level investment banker in Brazil, and this guy named Ahmad, who is a portfolio manager of a $2 billion hedge fund. And it was those four guys were the people that we proposed this cartoon to, and they agreed that would be a fun and interesting investment for them from both a time and money perspective. And so we created over the last, December 14th, over the last 8 months or so, this cartoon called Zoo Idiots, from scratch to a 10-minute pilot that we put up at zooidiots.com. And it's about climate change and how like animals are being impacted and what we can all do. It's an allegory for like what we can all do to positively impact climate change. But there's also subtext of capitalism versus socialism, big versus small, who's to blame for the problems going on in the world, and what happens when animals, aka humans, are left to their own devices in a power vacuum. And if you like Rick and Morty and you like South Park and you like The Simpsons, that is what we aspired for. And I think we didn't get anywhere near that level of incessant comedy, but I think we got pretty close in terms of achieving what we wanted to achieve. We got like really hard jokes in there. If you like my stand-up, you will definitely like the cartoon. And I mean, thank you for letting me say that. I mean, it's like my proudest work this year is that cartoon, and we're still working on it to put out more episodes. But it's like, what an endeavor that was. What a learning experience, from dealing with investors to developing to writing to voicing to everything in between.
Yeah, that's so cool. You're able to take this passion of just telling jokes and kind of bring it into an entrepreneurial mindset where you have this background in finance and you have these connections with investors and things like that. And it kind of culminates into a project that's a result of your actions, which that's what it's all about, man. I love it.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Please check it out. zooidiots.com is the funniest thing I've done this year, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check. I have not looked at that yet, and
Please, if you like those, if you like adult animation like Rick and Morty and South Park and The Simpsons, like you will appreciate what we had tried to do with zooidiots.com.
That's amazing. All right, we'll do.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and then just to close out, how can people find you if they want to go and binge watch all your comedy and zooidiots.com, everything like that?
Yeah, so Zoo Idiots is at zooidiots.com. It'll forward you to my YouTube page where that video lives. And then I'm on Instagram at Finding Nimesh. And then if you want to watch my stand-up, just go to patel2020.com. That's the latest half-hour mixtape that I put out this year. It's jokes about Kobe to my parents to everything that happened this year. And then, just my YouTube is like where all my material and stand-up live. But yeah, like those two things, zooidiots.com and patel2020.com. Between those two things, you should have everything you want.
All righty, man. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. And
thanks, Brendan.
Appreciate it. Get wealthy, everybody.
Get wealthy, man. Thank you. Take care of yourself, brother. I appreciate you. Peace.